compilation of good role models. How about you?
So I like the perspective of asking myself, what didn't school teach me that I want to learn? And then look for those areas, because you're probably not as good in those areas as you could be. And then I would look for those kinds of teachers, like social skills teachers. How to find inspiring people on social media, and who are the people who have inspired us the most from the last couple of years, and who have we learned the most from?
Social media has changed the game. It could be used as a waste of time, but you can also use it as a way to surround yourself with people that previously in history you would haven't had any chance to get close to whatsoever.
I just love thinking about it that way.
I know. It's such an opportunity.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even have heard of them.
No, I mean, imagine if you were some guy a long time ago. It's like, who do I want at my dinner table? You can kind of get like Aristotle or, I don't know, I was going to say Donald Trump, but you can still get him. Yeah, that's good. Either way, I'm here with Emil, my very good friend, the host of the Becoming Great podcast, becominggreat.com podcast, important. And yeah, the first guy joining him into great.com. How are you today?
I am feeling excited about this episode because I really want to share these people that have influenced me the most and formed me into the person that I am today. And the person I'm sitting next to is a role model in a sense, not a social media. No. Erik is a good personal friend to me. He's the founder of great.com. And you're listening to this, as we said, the becominggreat.com podcast. And the purpose of this and why we're doing this is to inspire you who wants to make the world or just your own life better through entrepreneurship and personal development.
Yay, let's dive into this.
Let's do it.
One question that I know that you like asking people is, what would you have changed in your upbringing? What's up with that question?
What would you have changed about the way that you grew up? I like that question because it gives someone an opportunity to talk about something that maybe was difficult for them or challenging. And if someone is willing to open up about that, I think that is a great way to connect with someone, to bond. And I often find when I ask that question that is leading to something that maybe they want more of in their life. So let's say someone was lacking something. Maybe now they're looking to get that thing.
It's a way. It feels like a pretty gentle way of asking a very deep question. Like you give someone opportunity to talk about deep pain without necessarily saying what's been painful in your childhood.
Yeah.
But you can kind of open that box anyway.
And if they say, no, I wouldn't have changed anything, then I can switch to, so what did you appreciate the most about the way you were brought up?
Yeah, that's true. You can.
So it's a way to get to know someone.
What's a common answer?
A common answer. It's so different. I don't think I've gotten the same answer twice.
That's also
the only answer I've gotten more than once is I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And then I'm thinking, what? Where's your creativity? I would have changed stuff.
So what would you have changed about your upbringing?
So I just asking that question to myself have given me some clarity. Because none of my parents are from Stockholm, the city where I live right now. And both of them moved here and they met each other. They fell in love. I came unexpected. And then they moved out to a suburb out of Stockholm. And they were living as this core family, right? The friends they met was kind of neighbors or other parents. So they didn't really choose their inner circle. And I wasn't surrounded by so many more grown-ups than my parents.
So when you say didn't choose their inner circle, they kind of just became their inner circle. They were neighbors. They didn't really look for new friends.
Yeah.
They just stumbled upon them.
Yeah, they weren't looking for role models.
Yeah.
So my parents, I love them. They're beautiful, such good parents. And as old people, they're not complete, right?
Yeah.
So there are some things my dad, for example, is very good at. And there are some things he hasn't put so much energy in. So I would really have liked to be surrounded by more male role models that could teach me things that wasn't his area of interest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
For example, that could be either more masculine traits or maybe some more spiritual traits.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say you could change that then. Okay, let's say you had an upbringing now. Let's say you could go back in time.
Yeah.
But you're not really going back in time. You're going back in age.
Yeah.
You're 12 years old, but you're still born in it's still the year 2020.
Yeah.
So what would you do today if you know that you were lacking those role models? Would you turn to social media to find them?
Let's put it this way. If I was a parent and I saw that my kid had an interest in something that wasn't my area of expertise, if there wasn't good people around him, then maybe I could guide my child to, can you look on the internet, maybe on YouTube, can you find someone that is having those traits? And I would have liked that guidance when I was a kid, if the internet would have been around. I'm old.
At least YouTube wasn't around in that way. No, you didn't find many mentors on YouTube in the year 2000.
No. So may I switch focus to you? Yeah. So why and when and how did you kind of start to find role models on social media and the internet?
If I'm going back and answering the same question that you got, like, what did I miss? I can see that I would have loved to have more grown-ups around me to learn from as well. I've basically just been surrounded by my parents. So I could really see the value of having more role models in different topics. And I don't think I ever really started looking for role models online. I didn't think that I didn't go out to find inspiring people. I think I stumbled upon them. Or other people told me, you really should check this person out. I think the first one, actually our friend Spirit, who works with Great as well, he recommended me to look into Tony Robbins. That's like 2 years ago. I didn't really look into anything before that. I would say I haven't really been following any podcasts. I haven't been following anyone on social channels in general. And he sent me some really old clips of Tony Robbins from YouTube. And I think they were like 6 hours long. And it was pure gold.
Yeah, I remember those.
And I felt like, there's a gold mine here. I didn't know about this one. And I think that was the first time I realized the potential of even role models. I don't think looking back, I've been pretty narcissistic in my life and felt like I don't need any heroes. I'm better than anyone else. And just the realization of getting older and seeing like, wow, I can learn so much from other people.
Yeah. And you should have people that are better than you in all areas of your life that you want to be good at.
Yeah.
So if you think you're good at something, you should know someone that is better. Otherwise, you're probably not that good.
You will definitely benefit from it.
Yeah, if you haven't taken the time to find out.
You will definitely benefit from it. And I hadn't done that. So it became an eye-opening moment for me to see that there is so much I can learn. Mm-hmm. I think I've always been looking for ways to learn, but I've mainly been teaching myself in various ways. So I think that was the first one, Tony Robbins, and these old videos on YouTube. We'll link them in the description. I said that was the first one I started looking up to and started learning from. Who was the first one you started learning from?
The first, let's say, area where I found role models was in the area of health. Today I'm a
Nerd.
big health nerd. Yeah, I probably spent 3,000 hours at least, like researching health online, and I love it. I'm having so much fun. And the first one I found in health that I really felt like a benefited from was the bulletproof guy. Dave Asprey is his name. He invented putting butter in your coffee. And
invented putting butter in your coffee.
Well, he popularized it. That's more fair. So he didn't. Probably Tibetan people.
What did you invent? Yeah, I took a piece of butter, I put a cup of coffee, I put it together.
Isn't that invention though? You take two ideas and you combine them.
Yeah, maybe. It just doesn't sound very miraculous.
It's miraculous to spread it. Well, so what his perspective is how can I think about health, not only in a way to like prevent disease and that really bad overweight and that really bad things happen for you. He was thinking of health as how can I eat and make decisions when it comes to my nutrition that will cause me to perform at my peak mentally and physically. And at the time I was playing poker professionally for a living. So I was competing all day, every day, and every decision I made, the quality of it had an impact on my salary, of course. So this became hugely relevant for me.
Okay, so the difference here was you had been thinking about health as long as I'm healthy, that's good enough. And most things talked about health is about not being unhealthy.
Yeah.
And this was the first time you realized it could go the other way around.
Yeah.
I could actually turn myself even better.
Yeah.
It's like if you're the car, before you were thinking the important thing is not to put in like bad gasoline in it. Mm-hmm. And now you realize, hey, there's also something called like NOS that make you go super fast.
I want to drive Formula 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that.
So that was my first one. And that had a big change on my in my energy. And that had a spillover effect. With more energy, I had more time to do more research and just more awake hours every day.
And that was mainly YouTube then?
I found a speech with him, like a 1 hour one on YouTube. And I thought, wow, this is brilliant. And then I listened to 100 podcast episodes or something.
Yeah, he's got is it the Bulletproof podcast or what's it called?
Bulletproof Radio, I think.
Bulletproof Radio.
So where he interviews different experts within different health areas. Which one was the first role model you found?
So the first one was Tony, definitely. That was the first one that I kind of stumbled upon. And he spoke a lot about emotions and emotional intelligence and social intelligence. He spoke about how to change your state. Like if you're feeling low and feeling low on energy, the main thing you can do, or the first thing you can do, is like change your body posture. You could change what you're eating, but that takes longer. But just changing your body posture, move around a little bit, smile. And I started learning all these little tricky life hacks that you could apply and how to do that. And in this video is also spoken about like embrace all your emotions, which are things that I truly believe in today that I didn't really think about before. That he says that all emotions are messages. So if you're feeling bad or heavy emotion somehow, if that's shame or if that's guilt or if it's anger, they're all messages to you about something that you would benefit from changing in your life or something you would benefit from learning. And before I just thought about, well, good and bad emotions in a sense. I don't want to feel the bad ones. And now, thanks to Tony, I felt like, okay, I want to learn from them rather than anything else. And after Tony, I started exploring YouTube more.
I just want to add that those teachings are very spiritual teachings to me. How you embrace your whole emotional spectrum, for example. But he kind of disguises those spiritual teachings in the body of this huge, like super masculine guy, which probably made it resonate with you more from where you were in your life. And probably resonates a lot with young men, for example.
Yeah, I really don't like the word spiritual.
Yeah, so you would have shut off instantly. This personal development and to use it to have more energy and maybe be more powerful in your life, then those same spiritual teachings resonates with you then.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to me, even when you say the word spiritual, I shut off a little bit. I really don't like that word. So it's probably just two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
And for me, emotions is something very natural. That's something that's a part of my body, it's part of me. While spiritual to me is some kind of a hippie word that I don't really understand. It doesn't resonate with me at all. Not at all. Very little, at least. So yeah, that's a good point. It takes the same kind of message, but in a different way. I think
that's the power of the internet now, because now you can learn the same concept through different vehicles, and you could change your teacher. 50 years ago, like if you were lucky enough to have someone as good as Tony near you, you couldn't change the person. Like so many different people are teaching the same key concepts.
Yeah, I mean, before you had one teacher who was in your village, or
maybe
you had hopefully one good teacher in school or whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay, so the word spirituality does not resonate with me, but I know that's a big part of what you started finding online. What was it from the spiritual teachers that you've been looking into?
I like the word. There's some cozy feeling to it for me. And for me, it basically means everything that is real, but that you can't touch, like emotions or thoughts, how you deal with them. And even the ideas like, is there something bigger out there? Who knows? But it's because I like to think about it.
Yeah, we're very different in that aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so how did you stumble on this? Because I guess the word spirituality came from social media for you as well.
Oh, yeah. It really started very old school with a teacher that I very much like to this day. His name is Eckhart Tolle. And I started reading his book when I was 22, maybe. And the books and his teachings is all about the ego and how the ego works.
And what's the ego?
Ego is an identity, the things we identify with in our mind and the stories we tell about ourselves. It's a big concept.
Yeah. One way I'm thinking about the ego, I've read the book a long time ago. It's just the voice in my head is like the first thing I would think about when I hear the word ego. So what I'm thinking, basically. Yeah,
and that voice can be serving you, and that voice can be unproductive.
Yeah.
And his books and his teachings is showing how the voice in our head can be used against us, basically. Yeah. And I was reading this, and every chapter I was, okay, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and realized that, wow, maybe 90% of thoughts I think is not only repetitive and unnecessary, but some of them are directly harmful to my psychological well-being.
Okay, so you found out that the way you're thinking is probably not beneficial for you.
Exactly. And ego
You've never thought about the thoughts like that before?
No, because the reason why is because ego can only exist in a state of unconsciousness. So once you become aware that you're doing those self-defeating things, that is no longer ego.
Let's see if I can paraphrase that. Okay, so the voice in your head is only ego if you're not aware of that it's going around.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to your thoughts like, hey, now I'm hearing myself saying that I'm big, fat, and ugly, and I'm aware of it, then it's a thought. And so, if I'm not aware of it, it's my ego.
Yeah, so if you see that thought happening and saying, I see those thoughts, but maybe that is not me, then that is your awareness looking at the thought. But if you're thinking the same thoughts and I am big, fat, and ugly, then that would be an identity your mind is creating that might not be serving you. And if you have awareness that this is happening, then you can choose more helpful thoughts.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so Eckhart Tolle was from a book then. Did you start looking at him on YouTube then as well?
I did, because he had a 10-part series with Oprah Winfrey that I liked. That was a nice combination because he's like this old, super stiff German guy, and then the contrast with her. I like that. I saw some public speeches with him as well. And the thing in both spirituality and in health is that you progress through different mentors on your path. So you learn something from one mentor, and then I think you kind of become ready as a person, and then the algorithms or whatever higher powers is out there puts you in front of a new teacher.
Okay, so if you translate that into reading books, for example, you start by reading children's books, and then you need a certain easy language to understand. And after a while, you've kind of gotten the idea of what the children's book can teach you, and you're ready to read more sophisticated things with a trickier language or a deeper meaning or more colorful characters or whatever.
Exactly.
So once you take on a topic like health, the more you know, the more you can learn. And the same thing with spirituality.
Exactly. So in health, I started with that Dave Asprey guy. Now right now I'm following a guy on YouTube that I really like. His name is Dr. Eric Berg. Okay. We are both inspired by a guy that is called David Sinclair. That is talking about how to stay young. And how to live longer. And that's a progression.
Yeah, that makes sense. Since David Sinclair talks about like very detailed things, that wouldn't be very interesting to someone who haven't studied the topic before.
Right, you need the basic concepts. So that's why I think Eckhart Tolle is a very good introduction to spirituality.
Because it's simple, or?
I think he lays a lot of ground understanding of how the ego works.
Yeah.
So if you're unaware that you have this voice in your head that might not be helping you, if you're completely unaware of that and you totally identify with every thought that is coming up in your mind, then that's a very good base to understand that is going on, I would say.
Okay.
And then with that base, you can move on to more to other teachers.
Okay, so where did you move on after Eckhart Tolle then?
I have two ones that I really like. One is called Teal Swan. I've been following her for many years. You can find her on YouTube. I like spiritual teachers on YouTube in general because you can hear them speak, right? So their personalities comes through. It creates like this sitting around a fireplace kind of feeling. So I think she's very good. She's specialized mainly, I would say, in relationships and how to deal with trauma. So I used her teachings a lot to, I didn't have a super difficult upbringing or anything, but I used her teachings to, those things that were traumatic, to heal them. And the result of that has been that when I come into situations that previously would trigger me and cause me to react with emotions I didn't quite understand, I have used those emotions as triggers to become more aware that this is not happening because of what's in front of me right now. It's happening because of something that happened to me previously.
Okay, so you have used her teachings to better understand yourself. And like, what is it in your childhood, for example, that makes you react in a certain way than when something happens now?
Exactly.
Being able to, thanks to things that she has taught you, you understand yourself better and can choose better to how to react in a situation where you might have been very stressed previously. Now you understand what it was that caused that stress, and you've been able to stay calmer.
Exactly. So if you're listening to this as someone that is often overreacting, and in video I'm showing quote marks right now, because I think that no reaction is really an overreaction. It's a reflection on what is going on inside of you and what might have happened to you before. But if something small is happening and you have this huge reaction, that might have to do with things in your past, not only what is in front. And then I think she's a very good teacher.
Okay, so someone who might get very angry easily, where
exactly
the size of the anger doesn't seem proportional to the thing that happened.
Exactly, or super afraid if you suspect that someone might be leaving you.
Yeah.
Then that might have to do with something other than just this person.
I can see that. Yeah. Okay. So.
And I want to finish on my favorite teacher of all. Before we switch out of the spirituality topic, and this is my biggest role model out of all. If I had to pick one, I would pick him. And this is not a beginner teacher; it's a spiritual teacher. So if you're not familiar with the area, you might struggle to understand. But his name is Matt Kahn, and
we'll link to all of
we'll
these
link
guys.
to all of these below. Yeah. His name is Matt Kahn. He's a American spiritual teacher who's doing long improvised speeches on YouTube. So he sits down and he talks for 1 hour, 1.5 hours.
And he's really funny.
He's really funny, yeah, and super loving.
He's
he looks
very
like this
weird.
very weird, look, this cuddly bear. But to me, he's on another level spiritually. And when I sit down, it's like my whole psyche gets massaged, and he's talking about different topics within spirituality, but in a new and creative way always. And he's always focusing on how to be as loving as possible. And I think that is very important on a spiritual path. At least I was using my male psyche to move too aggressively. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this ego. And he taught me that, hey, maybe you should love your ego instead. And so that has
talks
really
a lot
helped.
about love.
Talks a lot about love
way.
in a beautiful way. I really like him. So if you're into spirituality, go into his YouTube channel, search for Matt Kahn, and listen to some of the most viewed ones. So rank by views and look at some of the top ones.
Yeah. Yeah, you could argue that. So I'm not very fond of Matt Kahn. I'm not very fond of any of the spiritual teachers. That it doesn't resonate well with me. But what I'm seeing is he looks for the positive side of things. So if you would argue that I want to get rid of this ego, that would be like, this is a negative part of me.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, yeah, but you could also look at it from a positive side. You could address something with a positive perspective and a loving perspective.
Yeah.
I think love is also one of these fuzzy words that I think a lot of people wouldn't resonate with. It sounds girly in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think positive and love are very similar words.
Yeah.
It's just they resonate with other people. So I would say, personally, I would prefer like, how can I look at everything about myself with a positive light?
Yeah.
Would make it easier for me to grab onto those teachings than in a loving light. Because it's... Yeah.
So this is kind of one of the things that he made me change, because I was in the Tony Robbins teachings. I find a positive way to look at this, but I was doing it too early. So something that made me sad happened, and I tried to go from sadness to being positive. And I realized, wow, I'm kind of abandoning the one that is being sad here.
I think that you're not understanding me right now. So that's not my point. Mm-hmm. I see that what you're referring to here is that you kind of push your way to positive rather than love. For me, positive is a synonym with love. It's like I don't want to force myself into being positive. Mm-hmm. I want to find a positive approach to this emotion, a healing approach to this emotion. What I want to get away from personally is the word love, because I think it's the same as spiritual for me. It's a fussy, I'm going to go with girly, even though it doesn't really resonate with me to say that either, but I have a harder time to grasp that word. And it puts in the same folder as spiritual, which to me says hippie. And I think that being kind towards things and understanding for me are looking for a positive angle towards it. So not forcing the positive, but rather looking at it kinder, if that makes sense.
I like the word kinder more than positive, because kindness would be supportive to any emotion.
Yeah. And here we probably have different definitions of what positive means. Mm-hmm. That for me, positive, how I'm dealing with something positively is very close to how I would deal with something kindly. Mm-hmm. This is once again why it's beneficial to have different teachers for different things, because they might be using different language, and whatever my perspective of a word is could be very different from what your perspective of a word is.
And that is what I see when I recommend someone like Matt Kahn to people. So many people I recommended him to has given saying that, wow, this have totally changed my life. Like, he's my favorite teacher of all. And some people like you have said, I don't understand anything that he's saying because you don't resonate with the language.
Yeah.
So something I want to do for my YouTube channel, for example, is to take some of the teachings I like the most with him and then translate the language to more plain English.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a solid plan.
Yeah. So let's move on.
Let's do that.
How about sex? You've had role models within sex.
Yeah, I've had lots of role models within sex. Well, not lots. One of them, so something that is really interesting for me with social media in general is how you can find knowledge that we don't really talk about. So one of them is how to deal with emotions. That's not something that school teaches us. One thing that I've learned a lot about in social media is social skills in general. School doesn't really teach that. And thirdly, then it's sex and relationships that school doesn't teach. And unless you have parents who are extremely socially skilled in talking about these things or knowing these things, you're kind of forced to learn it on your own, and it's really hard. So one thing that I've been struggling with my entire life, or at least my entire adult life, is sex and relationships, and how do I communicate that? How do I express my needs? What's natural? What's not? And one woman who is she's doing a lot of things on social media is called Esther Perel. She has a podcast called Where Should We Begin, I think. And she's got a couple of TED Talks and a lot of things. And she's talking about sex and relationships in an understandable way. And this podcast is real couples therapy sessions where you get to follow a couple in her guidance. And then sometimes she just stops the recording and explains what is going on right now. And it's been so valuable just to get an insight in how similar my relationship with Johanna, my fiance, is with so many other couples out there, how much it is to learn from that and to be able to hear those real conversations. And it's been almost like we've been listening a lot to this together, me and Johanna, and then we've been pausing and kind of talking about what we've been hearing. And it's been like we're in couples therapy together, but without needing to find a therapist, without needing to put ourselves in that socially awkward situation. And it just made things a lot easier to she's been very beneficial. She's got a lot of speeches. She's been doing books and everything.
I really like her. And I think it's so good when those teachers have real people on stage. So, because then you feel like I'm not alone. Like I'm having these problems, they are having these problems. So many people probably do.
And I think that almost all relationships are very similar to each other. Yeah. We're human beings. We're pretty similar, all of us, even though if we like to think we're unique.
Yeah.
So almost every episode of her podcast, I've felt like, wow, I can really learn from this, or this is very much like me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if their problems are something completely different than what I'm going through, because the emotions are the same, the conversations are the same, the things that they learn is the same.
And I think you and I quite late realized that sex and relationships are a topic that you can study, learn, and improve on.
Yeah.
And it's so weird that didn't strike me earlier, that no other skill, if you haven't trained on it, you know how to do it. But you kind of assume that I'm going to figure relationships and sex out without having studying it.
Yeah, without having a teacher, without ever reading about it, without anything.
Yeah.
I mean, you're never going to be good at football if you don't practice and someone teach you.
Yeah.
It's just not going to happen. But I find that I really love talking about social media.
It's our favorite people.
This goes way longer than anticipated. So let's start wrapping this up a little bit with, you had one more teacher you wanted to talk about. What's that?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm right now learning about filming and cameras and audio and editing and photoshopping and everything that has to do with creativity and filmmaking.
I love how your entire face just lights up. Photoshop!
Photoshop, yes. And so one guy I found when I started searching for those topics is a guy called Peter McKinnon. And he's a super charismatic guy, has a lot of followers on his YouTube account. Definitely go check him out. And when I found him, I think it's so fascinating that we're in a time and age right now where if I want to learn about filming, I can pretty much find who I believe is the most inspiring teacher on the entire planet. And someone that when I watch his videos, I feel like I learn equally much from just observing how he is as I do from what he's saying.
Yeah.
And it's such a luxury to be able to choose like that. So in creativity, I have Peter McKinnon. I've been watching a filmmaker called Matt De Avella, also have a YouTube channel. He's talking about minimalism and personal development. So you have a couple more. So in social skills, who has inspired you there?
As I touched upon before, 3 things we don't learn in school is how to deal with emotions, social skills, and sex, and photo, and a lot of other things. But these have been, I would say, my 3 main topics that I wanted to learn from in adult years. And when it comes to social skills, I've learned a lot from a YouTube channel called Charisma on Command, and a guy named Charlie Houpert, maybe Houpert, not sure how to pronounce that name. And what they're basically doing is that they're taking social concepts and how people interact with each other, and they do short videos, often based on real life examples from celebrities. So they can create a video about Tom Hanks, and they look for how is Tom Hanks interacting in brief social situations, and they create examples of that you can learn from. And then Charlie talks in a voiceover about what it is that you can learn here. Why is he doing this? What is the impact of this? And they've done a lot of videos of like Game of Thrones and what's his name? Tywin? No, the dwarf Lannister. Like, why is he the best character on the TV show? What is he doing? What is he not doing? And why are some characters failing? And it's been very, very... They make it very concrete and specific. What can you learn from this? And I've learned so many things. Just one thing pops into my head, which doesn't go well with Corona times, is to be a toucher in general. Like how much it means to just put your hand on the shoulder of someone and be gentle, but be loving with it. And how much it means to just laugh at someone's joke. That if you're laughing at someone's joke, that means that you're paying them a compliment. You will make them feel good. My laugh is saying, hey, you're a funny guy. I feel good around you. And there's a lot of these small little things that I picked up that completely changed how I'm interacting with other people over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so those little hacks, and also he's highlighting a lot of mistakes that is common to do in social situations. And just getting rid of those mistakes will make most people, I think, more likable and more harmonious to be around.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, growing up, I was a pretty lonely child. I didn't have many friends, and I always thought that was just bad luck. And with all the knowledge that I've learned over the last couple of years, and I can see all the mistakes 12-year-old Erik did, and I realized it wasn't bad luck. I was just really bad with people. I did a lot of mistakes that I wasn't aware of, and if someone would have taught me that when I was 12, I wouldn't have suffered from being lonely. So it's a very, very valuable YouTube channel. Charisma on Command. Link in description. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, so let's start wrapping this up.
Yes.
How do you find inspiring people on social media? How do you find new people? What have you done to find this Photox guys, for example? That's the latest guys you found.
That one was mostly from the YouTube search function, I know. Okay. I think. And he was like top ranked. But I don't know. a lot of them has kind of been either someone's recommending them, like you said, or it's been through YouTube's recommendation.
Yeah.
So I haven't really had a system to find.
Browsed around basically,
Yeah.
see what you like.
So thinking of it like that, I can see how an episode like this from two personal development nerds would be valuable to someone who's looking for more role models.
Yeah.
Because it has taken me, I've been looking for role models since 2013, and I watch YouTube every day to learn things. And I take notes, and I love YouTube. But it has taken me a lot of time to find these people. So I don't know. Maybe I should look for more podcasts like this one, or like compilation of good role models. How about you?
So I like the perspective of asking myself, what didn't school teach me that I want to learn? And then look for those areas, because you're probably not as good in those areas as you could be. And then I would look for those kinds of teachers. Like I would look for social skills. If I have never practiced social skills and I'm not born with extremely talented parents, which I believe pretty much no one is, then I would look for social skills teachers. If I'm not amazingly happy with my sex life and my relationships, I would look for a teacher within that area. And yeah, I would probably just start with YouTube, look around for people with high number of views, and take it from there.
I like that approach. And something I want to add to, if you're listening to this and you feel like, I'm not so good with people, I don't have so many friends. The people around me that I see are the best with people now are those that started having low awareness of social skills. That caused them pain, then they made a lot of effort into getting better. I see those people being more skilled with people now than the ones I know that always has been the cool guy in school, that social skills came natural for them because they haven't learned how to get better. So they are the same as they were when they were 15,
that's
20.
very true.
But the people that sucked, they're the ones that are going to be the best when they're like 40. So don't give up if you're...
And it's actually quite easy.
Yeah.
I mean, in a year,
Stop
you can
making them
change
mistakes.
so many things. And it's not your fault. If you're not socially skilled, it's not your fault. No one taught you. School didn't taught you. Society didn't teach you. And it's hard, but it's surprisingly easy to learn once you have the right people to learn from.
And probably the most valuable skill out there.
Yeah, social skills is, you can do anything if you're good with people.
Yeah, don't give up.
Don't give up.
I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it this time?
Yes!
Do it. do it.
So if you like this podcast and you want to help us grow, because we're a teeny tiny podcast and we really want to grow, we would greatly appreciate that. And one thing that you can do that makes a big impact for us is if you open any podcast app that you're using on your phone, find becominggreat.com podcast and click subscribe. And the reason why that makes such a big impact for us is that pretty much all the top lists on iTunes and Chartable and wherever, they're not based on how many people listen to the podcast. They're based on how big percentage of the listeners are subscribing. So the more people subscribe, the more chances we have to reach up in the most listened entrepreneur podcast top lists and stuff like that. So we would greatly appreciate your help with that. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. And hey, if you know a role model that you really like that we have missed, I would like to know, because I always look for more YouTube people. So look for mine or Erik's Instagram in the description and let me know, because I want to find more people.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks for today.
Thank you for today. Corona elbow.